Well, you messed it up. You're stupid.
Okay, so today's Daily Dose of Stupid, boy, this one is a doozy. This one's pretty good. And I saw this over the holiday break, and I just could not resist making this the subject of at least one Daily Dose of Stupid. So, Doug Jones. We all know him. We all have our opinions on him. You may like him, you may hate him, but he is the senator from the state of Alabama. But there is one person that believes that Doug Jones is at least doing one really good thing for Alabama, and I don't know where his political leanings lie. I don't know if he's a big Doug Jones fan or not. It seems to be based on this, but there's a guy who is works at the Alabama Tourism Department. He is the director for that department. His name is Lee Sentell, and he has credited Doug Jones, that's right, Senator Doug Jones, with a recent bump in tourism. So we've seen a pretty big bump in tourism down to the Gulf of Mexico, Gulf Shores, Orange Beach, and Alabama tourism in general. And because of that, this particular director of the Alabama Tourism Department says that the election of Doug Jones is what caused that. Not anything Doug Jones has actually done in office, just him being elected because the contrast would have been electing Roy Moore. And so he says that Doug Jones being elected has been great for the state's tourism. And this is his rationale. So we'll go ahead and read the quote. I think the average person would be surprised to know that something like an election could have a potential impact on the tourism industry, which is obviously non-political. But we had lots of calls and emails in the month leading up to the election of Senator Doug Jones, people saying we will never come to Gulf Shores again if the election turned out the opposite way that they wanted it to. So in a way, people vote with their money when they go on vacation. Okay, so there's a couple of things here. First of all, in observing whether or not this claim is true, have you ever once, and I'm guessing there are probably some that will answer in the affirmative, but have you ever once considered the political affiliation of a senator when taking your vacation? Because I don't know about you, but I've never decided to go to Florida for vacation and thought, I really like Marco Rubio, so that's the reason I'm going to go to Florida. I was going to go somewhere completely different, but I think I'll go to Florida because Marco Rubio is their senator. And I like Marco Rubio. He does some things I don't like, but overall I think he's a pretty good senator. But I have never once in my life thought, I really like that senator from Florida. I am going down there. Maybe there's some people that have, but I'm guessing this is not only not the majority, I'm guessing it is an incredibly small minority. Incredibly small. And I've also never not gone somewhere because I didn't like their senator. For example, I've never thought, even though I've only been to California once and it was in the airport, so I don't even know if that counts. But I've never thought, I was going to go to Disneyland for vacation. But dang it, that Senator Dianne Feinstein and Kamala Harris, I can't stand those guys, so I'm not going to California. Now, there might be other reasons that I don't go to California, but it's not because I don't like their senator. And so it's just laughable that this guy thinks that Doug Jones is the reason for the uptick in Alabama tourism. So let's apply some logic here. Let's apply a little bit of logic and reason. Stretch your brain just a little bit. At best, this is anecdotal evidence. At the very best, this can't be backed up by statistics. And yet this guy is saying, well, Doug Jones is the reason we're having this surge in tourism. That is the definition of anecdotal evidence. Some people told me they wouldn't come here if Doug Jones were elected, which again, people say junk like that all the time. I think it's Rosie O'Donnell who has pledged every single year that if the Democrats don't take the House, the Senate, and the White House, then she's moving to Canada. What's her name? Barbara Streisand has said similar stuff. Jim Carrey said that he's moving back to Canada. And it never happens. That's just people talking. But let's just assume for the sake of argument that these people were legit. There's no way to prove that they would be in nearly big enough numbers to account for a bump in tourism, but let's just assume that is 100% correct. If you're observing the actual wording of the letters that he's claiming he got, he said it's people that will never come to Gulf Shores again if Roy Moore is elected. Well, if the very best, if that is true, even if what he's saying is 100% true, that still wouldn't account for a bump. It would account for a stagnation. So in other words, it would account for you not losing ground, because these are people that presumably already came to Gulf Shores for their vacation, now saying that if Roy Moore is elected, we're not coming anymore. Even if that's true, it still wouldn't create a bump. It would create a stagnation. It would keep people from deciding not to go somewhere else. That's all it would do. So unfortunately, logic and reason apparently not the strong suit of this this Lee Sentell guy. So let's take a look at this real quick, because I do think that the bump in tourism for the state of Alabama is actually a big deal. It is something that shouldn't be just thrown away lightly. But let's look at the actual explanation for why that may have been happening. So this is a graphic. This is taken from a tourism research. You can actually see the source there in the bottom. Trading Economics, they do research on things like tourism, how much money is spent. So this is tourism in the United States of America as a whole, the entire country. You'll look at 2016, you'll see a little bit of dip there, and then it starts climbing. So in other words, the entire country saw growth in tourism from 2016 to now when Doug Jones was elected, which would lead you to believe what? That Alabama is seeing a surge in tourism exactly the same as the rest of the country is. Partially because the economy's better, partially because there's less unemployment, and so there are more people that have the ability to take a vacation, partly because some people are seeing extra money that they didn't see ahead of time. We were reading a report about this just a few months ago, that now people that were doing staycations and having to stay home during vacation are actually going places specifically because they got money from the tax break, and they've been getting raises on a pretty regular basis now because of the better economy. And so, which is more likely, that all of a sudden that there were not these people that were writing to him, random people across the country that thought, Alabama just elected Doug Jones, let's go to Gulf Shores? Or is it far more likely that this boost in tourism in Alabama was just indicative of the overall economy, just like it was in the rest of the country? I'll let you be the judge on that one. I think it's pretty obvious, the one that I think that it is. The whole country has been on an upturn since 2016, and tourism is no exception to that.